Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to another episode of Your Competitive Edge with Baird Warner. I'm Lauren Walker. I'm Senior Director of Strategy at Inman, and today I am thrilled to sit down with Rebecca McDermott. Rebecca is a designated managing broker with Baird Warner. And Rebecca, you and I are here today to talk about staging and design and how that matters in real estate for agents and brokers who are helping their buyers and sellers think it through. So I'm really glad you're here to help the audience understand how this fits into the conversations they're having. Do you want to give us a little bit of background about you and what your time has been with Baird Warner and what you bring as far as your experience with design?
Sure. Thank you so much, Lauren. I really appreciate you having me here today. I have been with Baird Warner over 20 years and managing broker here at the branch for 3, but sold most of my career with obviously with Baird Warner. And as a sales associate, I always walked into a home and would talk to the seller about these are things that I think we could do to hopefully maximize your home. And, they were always great conversations. I love looking at the house and being able to tell them like, all right, if we just did this or did that, I think that this would help you maximize your value. So those are things I always enjoy doing. And these are conversations I'm having today with my agents.
That's great. And I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about why those conversations are important. At the end of the day, the bones of the house aren't going to change a whole lot. So I'm thinking, why does the design and aesthetic actually matter in the long run?
So, all right. So this is what I always feel like when you meet with a client, you're selling their home, right? And home is like it's like chicken soup. It's when you think about like I'm going home and it has such a special meaning. But now we're taking that home and we're turning it into a house. You're selling that house. And that's completely different. So for sellers, when they're thinking about selling their home, it's let's take down all the pictures of the kids or take down some of those things that mean so much to them. But for that buyer walking in, we have to make it something that they can picture themselves living in. How could I live here? And depersonalize it and turn it into that property that they want to live in and create their special memories in. So it's changing it up.
Yeah, that's for sure. And kind of thinking about it from someone else's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
What do you recommend are some universal things that agents and brokers should be thinking about when they're having those conversations?
So I would say thinking that staging isn't decorating. There's a big difference between those things. What's going on in today's market? It's a very different where 2020 is different than 2019, right?
For sure.
Just looking at how people are living in their homes today, if you walk in and someone did something that's very personal, trying to depersonalize it, whether it's colors or design, and just talking to them about changing the way that they're living in that property. And sometimes those are difficult conversations because no one should love that home more than the seller and the agent, right? But having that conversation is very important. So that's where a stager can come into play. That's that third party.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about staging because there's folks whose whole livelihood is staging homes. And so when do they come into the conversation? Is that something that the agent should introduce, that they should wait for their buyer or seller to ask about? How do you incorporate a stager into your business?
So it's different, I think, for each property, each agent, and it's really looking at the home as a whole and deciding, are there just, maybe the agent can suggest a few things that would open up the house or change, or if the seller is very attached to those items, then saying, well, let's bring someone else in and before the photos, let's see how we can maximize your home and the value. So it's really different for every property, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think that would let someone else kind of be the heavy, right? That because it's so personal.
Absolutely.
And you don't want to be the agent to say, this color is terrible, you know?
Right. You don't want to walk in and go, I love your home. I want to list it and sell it. Now let's completely change everything. Let's move all that out. Take those pictures down,
Right.
So you've just said, I love it. Now we're going to
Right.
change it.
And so
So
the stager can kind of carry that for you and be that neutral third party in the conversation, making recommendations and using their expertise.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
So you
makes it
talked
a
a
little
little
easier.
bit about how homes are being used in 2020. What are some things that agents should be thinking about? I know I'm using my home very differently now. I mean, how do you stage a home to reflect this life that we have right now?
Well, I think of even 2019, right?
Yeah.
Homes were more open. Everyone was using more open spaces, and now with Zooming and homeschooling, we're finding that we need a little bit more of the
True.
private, personal spaces with doors closed and things like that. Little nooks for reading and that.
Mhm.
So we're designing our rooms. Those home offices are turning into either exercise spaces. I recently saw a master or walk-in closet that was a meditation room. So
Wow.
we're really changing the way that we're living in our homes and using our spaces now, and in really different ways that you never would have thought of maybe last year. But
Absolutely.
our outdoor spaces as well, with the
Right.
heaters and fire pits, we're trying to, especially in the colder climates, make those areas usable longer.
Sure. And just kind of just telling that story of how are you going to use this space in the requirements that we have today, where possibly every single person in this family needs to use this home for more than just where they live.
Absolutely.
So what are some things, I mean, you've said before when we've talked that there's about 7 seconds that you have in order to tell all that story. How do you maximize that quick first impression?
So the 7 minute or 7 second, right? That's always been in place, I felt, but it's changed a little bit more
Mhm.
now. So you have the 7 second to make that first impression. So the buyer would, drive past or drive up, and from the moment they park, they, would take a look around and then start walking up to the house. So landscaping, that curb appeal is so important. And then, looking at, your front door, your windows, are they clean? Then
Mm,
walking into the home, so the front porch, having something that maybe smells very nice when you first walked in, because that's what you're thinking of the home. And then usually living room, and then looking to get to the kitchen. That's your 7 second time to form an opinion. Now we have buyers looking online more exclusively
right.
before they even want to come into the home. So it's kind of like online dating for homes, right? So you have they're going to look at the first 4 pictures. So you having beautiful photography is very important.
Sure.
So they're going to look at those pictures, and they're going to decide, do I want to come in and see this home? And HGTV, I really feel, has changed this, because they've let those buyers know, look at the home. These are the things you need to look for.
Yes.
So they're going to look at the photos, decide, do I want to come and see this home? Look at the first 4. If those first 4 aren't great photos, they're going to move on to the next home and find something that they really like.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is.
Get that in
It
seven
really
seconds
is.
and 4 photos. That's all you get. Um, so what are some things that agents, even without bringing the stager in, like, are there small things that an agent can kind of go to? What are your go-to things to add to a home to create that 7 second impression?
So definitely you don't want to have it where there aren't things in the home. You don't want to pare down too much, but you definitely want to destage, right? Declutter,
Declutter.
so that
Yeah.
when someone looks at the home, they can see, like, the space. So you want to have it where it's at a point where you can see the space. That's why I think model homes do so well, because they have beautiful items in there, but it's not so much that you can't look at it and picture how I would live there.
Right.
Picture the space. So windows open nice and bright. using like an Arlo or some of those other things that you have where if you're not in the house, you can turn the lights on and turn them off after someone leaves. Those are great apps that you can have on your phone where you're not even there and can utilize that. So nice and bright, everything lit up. And then you're able to show the buyers like how this house looks on when they come in or on the through photos, so it looks beautiful. And then just neutralized. Neutral tones seem to be very popular right now, so it's nothing too bright, and then just pops of color with accessories, pillows, vases, things like that, that are easy to change. But you definitely also don't want to have it where it's seasonal, that you can look at that photo and feel like that was taken at Halloween, and then that photo lives on in time.
Sure. Well, that's interesting. That makes me think about also how cognizant should you be about the style of the home or the location? How much does that come into the inside of the house?
So if you have, let's say, a Victorian home and you're staging it for sale, you don't want to have someone come in that's suddenly doing all modern brass and glass, right? You would like it to be similar to what the style of the home is. So just making sure it's current with time.
Okay. Okay. Very good. So we kind of touched on this before, but what are you doing now that you never ever had to do before that other agents are also kind of struggling with as we move into the end of 2020?
So I think we're really looking on how we can do things virtually, right? So with the virtual open houses and the virtual staging and really utilizing all of those tools to bring buyers in without having to come in at first.
Mm-hmm.
So the Matterports and the 3D tours, those are things that are really helping to showcase the home without having to actually walk through the property until someone's really ready. So those are great tools that Baird Warner has with VHT. That's one of our providers. And the drone photography, things like that really help to showcase the property.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. I was going to ask, what is the tech stack like when it comes to what Baird Warner is offering? So you mentioned VHT. That's one of them?
Mm-hmm. They can stage, they can remove things. So if you had that photo taken and then you look back and thought, oh, this needed to be removed, they can actually remove things out of the property. So if you had something there, that can be taken out. If the photo is taken with pumpkins in the corner, those can be removed. So you can add, remove, declutter. Those are great tools that we can add for today.
That's fantastic. So not only does today's agent have the ability to kind of set the stage in person, you can do it virtually too.
Absolutely.
Wow, well, that's really exciting. Rebecca, anything else we didn't cover today that you want to share about staging and design, any kind of like evergreen tips?
Well, one other, something else that we have, it's called Curbio. So it's another great tool partner that we have at Baird and Warner. So if you have a home and let's say it's beautiful, great bones, but may need a little bit of updating.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, a lot of today's buyers like to walk in and just move in. Curbio is a fantastic partner. They can do everything from landscaping to, painting, updating kitchens and baths. So it's really as much as needed. So they can come in and they can redo some of those things. And then at closing, the seller pays the cost of the rehab at closing. So it's another option for someone that may not want to or know how to rehab the property prior, but then they can get it done that way. So it's another great tool that Baird Warner offers.
That really does empower that seller to make some decisions, because often that can be daunting when you're going into listing your home and know this needs some help, but I'm not quite ready to make that happen. So, well,
or don't have the reach or know who to turn to. Yes.
Exactly. Well, it's fantastic. Rebecca, thank you so much for taking us through this today. I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you so much. That was great. I appreciate your time as well.
All right. Take care.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.